بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. سبحانك اللهم لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. والكامل لله في ذاته وفي صفته وناقص ذات لم يكن له عمل. Inshallah, today we are going to continue with this book, البداية في فقه العبادة, and we're going to start a new chapter which is الصلاة. Chapter on الصلاة, prayer. تعريفها, we're going to see its meaning, وأهميتها, its importance, وحكمها, and its ruling. تعريفها, its meaning. هي عبادة, it's an act of worship, ذات أقوال, that has some sayings, وأفعال, and some acts, معلومة, that are very known and well known. مفتاحها, its opening, the opening of the prayer is at-takbir, Allahu Akbar. The moment we say Allahu Akbar, it's like we open the prayer. وختامها, and its closing at-taslim is Assalamu alaikum. So we open the prayer by saying Allahu Akbar, and then we close it by saying Assalamu alaikum. But ma'aniyya, we have to include intention that we are performing the prayer. وَلَهَا شُرُوطٌ مَعْلُومَةٌ, it has some conditions. Prayer has some conditions. وَأَحْكَامٌ, and some rulings, مَخْصُوصَةٍ, that are specific and peculiar for it. So this is the definition of prayer. It's an act of ibadat that is opened by saying Allahu Akbar, and is closed or end by saying Assalamu alaikum. And it has some peculiar rulings which we are going to discuss in the book. أهميتها, its importance. فتاركها, whoever abandons it, whoever leave it. وجحودا, and go against it, like he has a view, like he doesn't like it. Why will I do it? I think now he say he does not believe in it anymore. So that is juhudan. He left it and then he is against it. He is fighting against it. يخرج من الملة, he is out of Islam. Anybody who leaves it and then at the back of their mind they are against it, now يخرج من الملة, they are totally outside the Islamic religion. ويعتبر أحد المرتدين, and he is considered as one of those that deserted from the religion. They deserted completely عن الإسلام, from Islam. ويترتب عليه أحكام المرتدين, and it can be confirmed on him or her the rulings of any person who is a deserter from the religion. بإجماع المسلمين, with the agreement of all Muslim, Arabian, educated, وعجميا, and even uneducated. All Muslims agree that anybody who abandons Salah and think, no, this Salah is now not the right thing to do, he or she is against it, then that person is totally considered a deserter from Islam, and he should be ruled accordingly. But here, بمنزلة ركن الثاني, it is the second من أركان الإسلام, in the pillars of Islam. It's the second most important pillars of Islam. حكمها, its ruling. فالصلاة, الصلاة, prayer, من آكد الفروض, it's one of the strongest obligations. Among all the obligations that are on Muslims, prayer is one of the most powerful and most strongest obligations. بعد الشهادتين, after the submission to Allah and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. After ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, the second that follows is as-salat, is prayer. وهي فرض عين, and it is an individual obligation. Nobody can do salah for any other person. Nobody can pray on behalf of any other person. It's an individual obligation that everybody must do it for themselves. So this is what we call by fardu ayn. يتعين على كل مسلم, that is compulsory on every Muslim, بالغ, who is an adult, عاقل, and sensible. Anybody who is an adult, a Muslim, an adult and sensible, must do it for themselves. Nobody can do it on behalf of another person. So this is the ruling. So its ruling is obligation, it's compulsory, and nobody can do it for any other person. عدد فرائض الصلاة. Now عدد فرائض الصلاة. Numbers of obligatory prayers. How many obligatory prayers do we have? That's عدد فرائض الصلاة. Number of obligatory prayers. الصلاة, prayer. لا يقل عددها عن 5. It's not less than 5 in number. Obligatory prayers are not less than 5 in number. في اليوم, during the day, والليلة, and night. Within the day and night we have 5 obligatory prayers. كما ثبتت فرضيتها بالكتاب والسنة, like its obligation is confirmed, is proven in the Quran and Sunnah, the teachings of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وهي, and these are الظهر, صلاة الظهر, والعصر, صلاة العصر, والمغرب, صلاة المغرب, والعشاء, صلاة العشاء, والفجر, and صلاة الفجر. وهذه الخمسة معلومة من الدين بالضرورة. وهذه الخمسة, these are 5 معلومة that are known من الدين in this in our Islam بالضرورة, which are necessary. These are the necessary 5 prayers that we have. So now we understand what is salat, we understand what is the ruling, and we understand what is the ruling on somebody who deserted the prayer. Now, mawaqitu salat, prayer times. What are the prayer times? Mawaqitu salati, prayer times. I'lam, you should know, akhi Muslim, my Muslim brother and sister, أن لكل صلاة, that each salat that we see من هذه الصلوات الفروضة, from these obligatory prayers that are mentioned earlier, وقتا مخصوصا لها, has a peculiar time for it. Like there is a peculiar time for that salat. ومحدود الدخول والخروج, and it has a defined entry time and defined exit time. Each prayer has a defined entry time and a defined exit time. Any time before that is not considered a prayer. Any time after that is also not considered a prayer. So each one has that محدود الدخول والخروج. وعلم, and you should also know أن من صلى صلاة, whoever prays any prayer في غير وقتها, outside its timing, فهو كمن لم يصلها, it's like a person who has not performed the prayer. Anybody that say, for example, somebody say, okay, I'm going to pray Zuhr at night, it's just like someone who has not prayed Zuhr, because that is not the time for it. So anybody who prays any peculiar or particular prayer at a particular time that is not designed for that prayer is like they have not performed this prayer. So this is to tell us that the timing is very important and it's very accurate and we must take care of it. سواء صلاها قبل دخول وقتها, it's the same. Has a person prayed it before the entry time, أو بعد خروج الوقت, or after the exit of the time. So it doesn't matter whatever time. If we pray before the entry time, the prayer is not considered valid. If we pray outside the entry time, the prayer is also not considered valid. إلا من يتحرى ذلك, except a person who is guessing the time. You are not sure about the time. You don't know. You think, oh, the time is this or that. And then he made a mistake. And then maybe after the time passed, he think this is the time, and they pray after the time or before the time. Okay, that is al-khata, that is a mistake. And wal-khata'u wal-iqrahu wal-nisyanu as-khata'u ma'budina rahman. Al-khata, mistake. And when we say mistake in Islam, It's me coming to do something with the intention of doing something, but in the event I end up doing another thing. For example, I see this in my mind, I'm taking water. Then perhaps it's something which exactly looks like water, but it's not water. Maybe it's something prohibited to drink, and I take it. So that one is a mistake. Why? Because my intention is to go for a water, and then in the event of the act, I took something different. So that is a mistake. So this is al-khata. That's why even in this case, يتحرى الوقت. He is guessing the time. Oh, I think this is the time, and it happens it's not the time. So that is al-khata. Wal-iqra, something that you're forced. Somebody forced you, and you have no power to stop it. If you do it, it's considered forgiven. When nisyan, you forget it. And when you forget something, it just leaves your mind. You don't know, you are unconscious about it, and it happens, you do it also as rahman. So it's only when this excuse is there, that's when it's considered accepted. Otherwise, no. وَإِلَّا فَلَا. Otherwise, it's not accepted. أَوْ مَنْ كَانَ مِنْ أَهَلِ الْأَعْذَارِ. Or someone who has a valid excuse. For example, مَنْ نَامَ عَنِ الصَّلَاةِ أَوْ نَسِيَ عَنْهَا. If somebody is sleeping, if somebody forget, for example, okay, in that case, somebody, when you wake up even after the time, then you can pray after the time because you have a valid excuse. Otherwise, nobody should pray before the time or after the time. Why are we specific on this time? لِقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى. Because of the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, إِنَّ الصَّلَاةَ. Of course, as-salat, prayer, كَانَتْ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ كِتَابًا مَوْقُوتًا. It has a specified time range on all the movement. So this is the time range. Nobody should do pray before it, and nobody should do pray after it. Okay, now we're going to start the timings, which we're going to go a bit slower in this place. وقت صلاة الظهر. Zuhur prayer time. When does it start and when does it end? Min zawali shams. That is the beginning. Min zawali shams. From the tilting of the sun. From the tilting of the sun. Usually, when the sun rises, when it rises from the east, it will come to the center. When it's at that center, then it will begin to tilt. That is the Zawali Shams. As soon as it tilts, then now it marks the beginning of Zuhur prayer. What is Zawali Shams? He said, وَهُوَ تَجَاوَزُهَا وَسَطَ السَّمَاءِ. Is the passing of the sun from the mid-center of the sky. So when it comes from the west, it will be going, for example, let's say it comes from the west, it's going, you will see your shadow is facing this direction. So it's coming, then it will go to the center. When it goes to the center, your shadow is at the shortest. Then it will now begin to go to the west. As soon as it begins to go to the west, then your shadow will begin to shift to the east. So like, as soon as it begins to shift, you will see your shadow shift. So from that moment of shift, that is when Zuhur prayer starts. That is when the timing starts. Ila ayyasira. Then, now what is the end? Ila, the time will continue from that moment. It will keep going on. Ila, until ayyasira dhillu kulli shay'in mithlahu. Until the length or the height of any object until the shadow of any object equals to its height. If, for example, I take me as an object and I stood up, when the sun is at the center, you will see your shadow is at the shortest. Then when it's tilting, the shadow will be increasing. It will be tilting, shadow will be increasing. This is in the time of Zuhur, and this will continue until when your shadow is exactly equal to your original height. If you measure 5 meters, for example, and your shadow also equals to 5 meters, then the time for Zuhur has officially ended. So this is ila ayyasira dullu kulli shay'in mithlahu, but there is a case here, ibtida'an min al-dhilli zawali. or ibtida'an, but we have to start counting or measuring min al-dhilli, from the shadow, allati zalat alayhi shamsu, that the sun tilted on it. So what it means here is that normally in every case, as we have said, when the sun comes to the center, you can see your shadow, but it's at the minimum, so you do not count that. Let's say when the sun comes to the center, my shortest shadow is 0.2 meter, for example, and let's say my height is 1 meter. So I will start counting from 0.2 meter until I reaches my original height, 1 meter. So that now the height should be equal to 1.2 meters before I can count the time of Asr. Before I can count the entry of Asr time and the ending of Zuhur time. So that is what we Fuqaha call that shadow Zil Zawal. They call it Fay'u Zawal. Meaning it's the original shadow that everyone has. When the sun reaches the peak, the shadow is there. We don't count it. We don't even pray during that time. That's when the sun is at the center, we don't even pray at that time. So when that shadow is beginning to increase from that moment, that's when we start counting. So if your height is 1 meter and the Fay'u Zawal is 0.2, so meaning you have 1.2. You don't count 1 meter exactly because that shadow is originally there, so you don't count with it. So this is what we mean by ibtida'an min al-dhilli, but you have to start counting from that shadow alladhi zalat alayhi shamsu, that the sun moved from it, because it was there and then the sun moves from that point, so that is when we start counting. وَهُوَ مَا يُعْرَفُ عِنْدَ الْفُقَهَاءُ بِالْفَيْءِ. وَهُوَ, that shadow that is originally there when the sun is at the center, it's known by Fuqaha al-Fay'u. They just call it al-Fay'u. Like when Fuqaha say al-Fay'u, dun al-Fay'u, meaning without the Fay'u Zawal, without the original shadow on which the sun is at the center. So this is the beginning and ending of the time. It starts when the sun tilts and it ends when the height of any object is equals to its shadow. The second, waqtu salat al-asri, the asr time. What is the asr time? The beginning and the ending. Min kawni dhilli shay'i mithlahu. Now it starts when the shadow of an object equals to its height. Meaning after Zuhur end. Because when Zuhur ends, the shadow of everything equals to its height. Okay, from that moment, now the time of Asr enters. So when the shadow of any object equals to its original height, now is the marks the beginning of Asr. Ba'ada Fay'i Zawal, of course, after that Fay'i Zawal. So let's say, as I have given an example, if I have Fay'i Zawal 0.2 and then my original height is 1, when I measure my shadow, it will give 1.2 meter. So now 1.2 meters, when the shadow equals to 1.2 meters, that is exactly when the time for Asr will start. But now we don't do all these calculations because we have time. We already know. This was what they did before the starting of this using clocks and what have you. So this was how they were knowing their times and what have you. So it begins ila ispiral shams, until the yellowishness of the sun. Like when the sun it begins until when the sun begins to become yellow in color. So meaning it's now setting towards the west. It will be going down. When it's across the horizon, like when it's going to cross the line of the horizon, then it will begin to change the color. It starts generally with the yellowish appearance, and then it will form yellow red, like reddish appearance. So like this. So that's ila ispiral shamsi aw ihmirariha, or its reddish appearance. So it starts from that point until it becomes yellow or reddish. But this fi halil ikhtiyar, that's when there is a choice. So what he is trying to say is that the time for Asr begins when the length of an object's shadow equals to its original height. The time will continue until when the sun is about to fall, but it has not fallen, how would we know that it's about to fall? We will see yellowish appearance or reddish appearance. This time is the best time for anyone to pray Asr. It's not the exact ending time. When we see the yellowish appearance, it's not the exact ending time, but nobody should delay Salat up to that time without any excuse. So that is, they say, fi hal ikhtiyari. So it's like waqt al-darura. That's what ulama call it, waqt al-darura. It's not waqt al-ikhtiyar. Waqt al-ikhtiyar is from that moment until isfirar al-shams aw marariha. That's waqt al-ikhtiyar. Then immediately after that, that's waqt al-darura. So if something happens, maybe there is an excuse, okay, you can still pray, it's still considered the time, but that is not what is needed from a person. So that is what you mean by fi hal al-ikhtiyar. وَيَمْتَدُّ, he say وَيَمْتَدُّ, the time will go on, وَيَمْتَدُّ وَقَتُ الضَّرُورَ, and it will go on until the time for excuse. That's what you call وَقَتُ الضَّرُورَ, meaning after the isfirar. After the isfirar, أو إحمرار, that's وقت الضرورة إلى الغروب until it falls or until it's set. So the sunset marks the end of the timing for Asr. But from the time when the yellowish appearance comes or the reddish appearance comes, now we have وقت الضرورة, and it continues until the sun completely sets. When the sun sets, now the Asr time is over. The third, وقت صلاة المغرب, Maghrib time, من غروب الشمس, from the time the sun set, meaning from the sunset, إلى أن يغيب الشفق, until a shafaq, twilight, reddish twilight disappears. So the complete twilight, the reddish twilight will completely appear. So now the difference between the twilight here and the one before of the Asr, the yellowish appearance and the reddish before the sunset is as a result of the sun. But in this case, the sun sets, so it's not the result of the sun. So it's a different reddish appearance that comes. So that is what you mean by min ghurubi shamsi ila ay yaghiba shafaq, until that shafaq disappears, meaning there is total darkness now from the west side. What is the shafaq? He says, وَهُوَ الْحُمْرَةُ الْبَادِيَةُ. It's a reddish appearance in the horizons, like in different parts. نحو المغرب, towards the west. So it's a reddish appearance that you're going to see towards the west. That is a shafaq. So when that disappears, meaning the time, Maghrib time has now passed. Now the time for Isha has set in. So that's now waqtu salatul al-isha'i. What is waqtu salatul al-isha? The time for Isha, min maghibi shafaq, from the disappearance of the red twilight, ila muntasifil layl, until midnight. The time starts immediately, the red twilight disappear, and it continues until the midnight. And the counting, we can have maybe our calculation with the clock, but okay, he will say it here. See, qila, it said, muntasaful layli, midnight, half of the night, yu'rafu, we can know it, the muntasafil muddati, with the division of a timing, bayn al-maghribi, between maghrib wal fajr and fajr. So immediately the sun sets, that's when the night starts. As soon as the sun sets, the night starts. And the night continues until the Fajr appears. So now you count the time, the halfway through that time, that is when Isha time is over. It has elapsed. So it depends on the timing and the counting and what have you. So it's not exactly like 12 a.m. In some places it can be 12:05, 12:10, 12:01, 12:30, it depends. But we just need to know that, okay, the night starts when the sun sets, and the night ends when Fajr comes out. So now you go halfway. That halfway is the ending time for Isha prayer. وليس المراد أنها الساعة 12 ليلا. It does not mean 12 midnight. Yeah, it's not exactly 12 midnight. It can vary depending on the zone, depending on the location and what have you. But our basic calculation is the sunset and the appearance of the Fajr. Now the last one, وقت صلاة الفجر, the time of Fajr prayer. من طلوع الفجر الصادق, from the appearance of a true dawn. We call it true dawn because it's called true dawn because there is a false dawn. A false dawn is a kind of light that appears. It is vertical, yes, it's vertical in nature. It's generally, Fuqaha usually compare it with the tail of a wolf. Like you see, it's a bit broader at the, towards the beginning, and then it goes, and then it goes more straight. It just comes for a while and disappear. So that's why it's called false dawn. If someone is not experienced enough, you might think, oh, it's time for Fajr. But this is false dawn. This is what you call a Fajr al-Kadhib. And then after it goes, then a bit later, then Fajr al-Sadiq will come. And for Fajr al-Sadiq, it goes horizontally, like it covers the horizons, unlike the other one which mostly appears vertically in nature. So when you see the vertical appearance, you know it's not the true one. When you see the horizontal and the coverage is wider, you know it's the true Fajr. So now it marks the beginning of Fajr prayer. So what is true Sadiq? What is Fajr Sadiq? He say وَهُوَ الْبَيَاضُ. It's a whiteness. وَهِيَ الْبَيَاضُ. It's just a white light. الْمُعْتَرِضُ, that appears فِي that appears فِي from the horizons, like in the sky, and in the فِي الْأُفُقِ الشَّرْقِي, in the eastern horizons. Meaning from where the sun comes, because it's marking the beginning of the sunrise. So these are all indications that, okay, the sun is coming up. So these are the horizons. So we say it's the light al-mu'taridu fi al-ufuq al-sharqi, that comes from the eastern horizon. Alladhi laysa ba'dahu dhulmatun, that has no darkness after it. When it comes, light will follow. Unlike the other one, the false one, after it will still go and darkness will continue. But in this case, when it comes, then lightness will follow. Meaning the sun is about to come. إِلَى طُلُوعِ الشَّمْسِ, until the sun rises. So now this is the end of the Fajr time. So it starts from the appearance of the what do you call it? It starts from Fajr al-Sadiq until the sun rises. So this is the end of the Fajr time. So anybody that prays Fajr after the sunrise, meaning that unless they have a valid excuse, meaning that they have not prayed Fajr, they have just did some movements which is not considered valid in the Sharia. So these are the times. But thank God now we have time. We just check, okay, so time like we have here. We just check this is the time, it starts this time, it ends this time. But for background knowledge, we need to know how the timing is set. And this is how it's set. Al-awqat al-manhiyu 'an as-salati biha, prohibited times of prayer. In these times, we are not allowed to pray. Number one, ba'da salati as-subh, after subh prayer, hatta ta'lu'u ash-shams, until sun rises. Qadra rumhin, the length of an arrow or the length of a spear. What is this trying to say is that it's not like in the event of the sunrise. Because if you could remember, Prophet ﷺ prohibit us from praying when the sun is rising. So we're not supposed to. So when it comes out, so like maybe now we can estimate it like when the sun begins to appear, then you can wait 15-20 minutes. Okay, that's when you can start praying. But before that, we cannot pray. So that's when the sun is rising. بعد صلاة الصبح, after Salatul Subhi, we are not supposed to pray any salat until, of course, there is a valid, acceptable excuse to pray. Otherwise, no any prayer should be done until when? Taqalu al-shams, when the sun rises, and not at the immediate point of rising, maybe after some moment. That's the first one. Number 2, waqatu zawal. Waqatu zawal, the moment of tilting. Like the sun is at the center, it has not tilted, it's about to tilt. Like when the sun is at the center, it's extremely hot at that time. So it's also not allowed to pray until it's also tilted, like we have described earlier. What is waqatu zawal? He said, Hina istuwa ishams, when the sun is at the midpoint. When it's at midpoint, yeah, we should not pray. Number 3, بعد صلاة العصر, after Asr prayer, حتى تغرب الشمس, until the sun set. And also for this, it must completely set, not at the time when it's setting. Not at the time when it's setting. So after it's set, we are until it's set, so we're not supposed to pray. And fourth one, yes. Is it fourth one? بعد صلاة العصر. Fourth one, التطوع إذا أقيمت صلاة الجمعة. إذا صلاة الجماعة. التطوع إذا أقيمت صلاة الجماعة. Praying voluntary prayer, nafila, when the Jama'ah prayer is started. Like when Zuhr, when the Imam say Allahu Akbar, no more nafila. Even if you do it, it's considered invalid. That's why Fuqaha even say, when you, even in the middle of it, like let's say you did one raka'ah and the Imam say Allahu Akbar, then that's it, just cut it. Yes, it's just invalid. Even if you, it's just invalid. Even though you say this is one of the common mistakes we do in the mosque, like people will think, okay, let me complete. Like it's automatically broken. We don't even need to complete it. So because لا صلاة إلا صلاة الجماعة في هذا الوقت. So التطوع إذا أقيمت صلاة الجماعة, praying nafla when the Jama'ah prayer has started. And the fifth one, عند ميل الشمس إلى الغروب, when the sun is tilting toward falling or toward setting. I mean, like when the sun is tilting, you have to wait until it completely sets. Just like linked to the time after Asr, it keeps going until the sun completely sets. So these are the times that we are not supposed to pray. ما يستثنى من النهي, what is excluded from the prohibition. Like what are the excuses, what are the situations in which we can pray, even though that we can pray in these prohibited times. Are there any conditions? So now this is what we are going to see. عند الظهيرة يوم الجمعة. You see, during Jum'ah, it's obligatory prayer, and it happens, this is the best time you can have to pray. So even it's at the Zahira, now there is an excuse for people to pray during that time, but it's not encouraged. When it happens that this is the time you have, maybe, for example, in this kind of situation, we are students, you know, okay, we have generally there is exams in time, or there are classes in okay, this is the options we have, then ma yustafna. So in that time you can say, okay, India muqim zahira. Why? Because generally, as soon as the sun tilts, no matter what, the time for Zuhur starts, so it's considered as obligatory prayer. It's like Zuhur, but in Jama'ah. So in that case, it has an istithna in this case. Salatu raka'atay at-tawaf fi Bayt al-Haram, pray 2 rak'at in tawaf fi Bayt al-Haram. Also, if it happens anytime, you can do that. قضاء الفوائد بعذر شرعي. If you're going to pay back any of the obligatory prayers, somebody has not prayed Zuhur or has not prayed Asr, and what have you, they have slept and they woke up like at, let's say, this time, okay, now they can pray because they were sleeping. Or maybe somebody has lost consciousness, which are an acceptable excuse. So when they regain their consciousness at a time of prohibition, okay, then they can pray. So whenever you're going to pay back obligatory prayer, there is exclusion from this prohibition. That's our qada'ul fawaiti, paying back a prayer that has passed on a person bi'udhrin shari'iyyin, but with an acceptable excuse. So this is where there is this agreement among scholars, because some scholars are going by the view that if someone intentionally, without any excuse, maybe they are sitting outside and the prayer time begins, they have not prayed until it ends, they have not prayed, no valid excuse. Some scholars say if you pray it after that time, it's not accepted, it's invalid. It's fa'ita on a person, but they leave it intentionally until it passed. They refuse to do it. So for that, their prayer is not needed. Even Ibn Hazm was saying, okay, the people that are saying they should pray, and some scholars say no matter what, they should pray. Either they abandon it or they leave it intentionally or unintentionally, they must pray. But if they pray, it doesn't mean it pays back the previous one. It's just an action of prayer. Okay, you must do it. But that prayer, nobody knows. You just do the act. So the other scholars say, okay, now if you tell them they should pray, who are you to give them the time to pray? Allah said, Inna salati kanat al-mu'minina kitaban mawquta. Okay, this is the time Allah asked us to pray. And this person intentionally refused to pray. Okay, now that you ask him to pray, are you God also? Did you give another time for prayers? Then they say no. So they go by these people like Shaykh Ibn Hazm, they were like, okay, you don't need to pray, just you will face the uquba of Allah. He knows what to do with you, but you are not even supposed to pray. And some goes by the view that they should pray and what. So that's why here he say bi'udhrin shari'iyyin, even for it bi'udhrin shari'iyyin. So this indicates that he is of the view that if somebody did not pray intentionally and the time passes, okay, they should not pray. But if they do, according to other scholars, okay, I mean, like, you pray outside the time, who asked you to do that? So logically they are more right than the other scholars that say no, they should pray all the time. So Wallahu a'lam. But in this case, like, there's always this argument. So but the best thing is just we should do as much as we can to not allow the prayer time pass without us praying, without any valid excuse. The fourth one, as-salawatu dhatu asbabin. Salat that has a cause. Salat that has cause. There are certain salat that are associated with certain things. Maybe Prophet ﷺ, if you do this, you pray, for example. When you come to the mosque, when you enter the mosque, do not sit until you pray. Okay, now it's attached to a condition. What is the condition? Entering the masjid. Okay, that means any time we enter the masjid. Even though this one also there is disagreement. Some says no, this umum, the umum here, which prohibit the time, it includes everything, even if you enter the mosque. And some say, no, here there is what we call al-istithna in usul al-fiqh, meaning it's not allowed to pray at this time, but when this happens, you can do so. So the fact that he also brought this, meaning he is of the view that if salat has a cause, even if it falls within the prohibited times, okay, now it's excused, or it's considered as an excuse to pray in, which are these, katahiyatul masjid. When you enter the masjid, you do tahiyatul masjid, because it's attached to entering the masjid. It's not attached to timing. So if I enter the masjid and I have ablution at whatever time, then I will pray. But many scholars disagree with this. Many they disagree. What's sunnatul wudu'i? Also sunnatul wudu. Anybody that take an ablution, a proper one, and also perform 2 rakats, a proper one. Okay, this means now the ablution is attached to praying 2 rakats. Okay, now they say anytime you take ablution, you come and pray. It doesn't matter the time. Why? Because the prayer is attached to the act of wudu, not what? Not the time. So they put it as part of exclusion, but there are many scholars also that disagree with this. They say no, any form of nafila is also not excused. Even this one is nafila, it's not obligatory. So it's only in the case of obligatory cases, many scholars go by this, meaning you are paying back a prayer that you have missed, or you know, you can do it at any time. So in that case, otherwise, no. Al-amakin allati hiya 'an as-salati fiha, places that are prohibited to pray, places that we are not supposed to pray. Akhil Muslim brother and sister, rahimakallah, may Allah forgive you. I'lam, you should know, anna as-salata, prayer, la tasihhu fi hadhihi al-mawadi', it's not valid in these places. You are not supposed to pray in these places. Why? لصحة الأحاديث, because of the authenticity of ahadith الدالة على فسادها, that clearly show its invalidity, its falsehood, that you should not pray in those places. Even if you pray in those places, the salat is invalid, it's not acceptable. وَإِذَا أَدَّيْتَ الصَّلَاةَ فِيهَا, if you pray in any of those places, فَتِلْكَ عِبَادَةٌ فَاسِدَةٌ, that is a false worship. It's a false, it's not, it has not fulfilled the condition, so it's false. وَهِيَ ثَلَاثَةٌ, there are three places. Number one, الصَّلَاةُ فِي الْمَقْبَرَةِ, praying in a cemetery. You can't go to cemetery and oh, it's Asr time and then you pray. You see, it's invalid because it's clearly mentioned that we should not pray in the cemetery. So even if someone pray in the cemetery, Zuhur, Asr or whatever, it's not. Many scholars go by except Salatul Janazah. This is the only prayer that can be done in the cemetery, but no other prayer, nafila or fard, that can be done in the cemetery. Ma ada Salatul Janazah, except Salatul Janazah. Which is Salatul Janazah, it's alright. Second, as-salat bil hammam, praying in the bathroom or in the toilet, wal kanif and bathroom. So if someone pray or any other dirty place, for this they ascribe any other dirty place. If a person prays in any other dirty place on dirty surfaces, the prayer is also invalid, it's false. So it's not considered a prayer. أي مكان للبول والغائط, meaning al-kanif, it means a place for urinating, and also al-ghaib, it's also not accepted. So any dirty place, if somebody pray there, the salat is not accepted. Number 3, a'tanul ibn, the ranches of camel. I mean camel ranches, a place where a camel is taken care of. Nobody should go there and pray. If anybody pray there, the salah is considered false, because these are the places where there are prohibitions. وَهُوَ مَكَانٌ تُقِيمُ فِيهِ الْإِبْلِ, this is a place where camels stay. وَتَأْوِي إِلَيْهِ, and it also lives there. It sits there, it lives there, and what I do. So these places, prayer is not acceptable when anybody pray here. So this ends the chapter on Salah, which is like a real summary of it. This is just, we know that Salah is very, very wide. So that's why if you want to read much more about it, you should either go, there are many Kutub al-Ahadith, you can go to Kitab al-Salah, or if you want to see a picture format, but with the subparts, with the hadith and the ayat, you can go for Sahih Fiqh of Sunnah, because you can see everything in there. What are the types of salat, how to do each salat, what are the prayers, like is there. But because this is in summary, but perhaps I think in part 2 of the book, I think he kind of go deeper. And also remember, we have conditions in which there are as-sahwu fi salat, how to deal with those kind of cases. It's all not mentioned. So these are the most basic information that he has mentioned. Or perhaps maybe we could take a book that explains this. Yes, it's part.
There is a chapter later on about sujood sahu and
Yeah, all of those ones.
in the
Yes.
same book.
Okay, so we will deal with that. So we have التدريبات. متى تتعين الصلاة على الإنسان؟ متى تتعين الصلاة على الإنسان؟
يكون عاقل راشد بالغ.
نعم. نعم. Yes. بالغ والعاقل. Yes. In that case تتعين. But what is the meaning of فرض عين? Because he says Salah is فرض عين on every person. What is the meaning of فرض عين?
It's like wajib. There's like, for example, فرض عين and فرض كفاية. فرض عين is like Salah, for example, or Siyam, for example.
Individual for each one.
Yeah. Individual for each one. Yes. فرض عين is on you. Nobody can do it on your behalf. If a person do not do it, it's there on him. I can't ask, okay, Sheikh Abdullah, can you pray Zuhr for me? Like I'm busy. so I was saying him to pray Zuhr for you. So you cannot do that. But what is the other one? Fardu Kifaya, which is
Hajj, for example. Like pray for Salam Alaikum. If someone do it, it will be fine for another. Like
It's
Salam
either you
Alaikum,
do
someone
it,
said
if you do it, it's good. If you didn't do it, it's still not.
it's fard.
It's fard, but kifaya.
like is Fard, but Kifaya.
Kifaya. If some part do it, it will be
If somebody do it, okay, it's okay
okay.
for you. For example, Al-Adhan. Al-Adhan Fardu Kifaya. Okay, somebody, if like for example somebody come and do Al-Adhan, other people don't need to come and do it.
Even they are pray for Salam Alaikum. If someone else do it, it will be fine for
Even
Salam Alaikum. Or pray for Salam Alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum, if I see a person and say Assalamu
Yeah,
alaikum.
if no one pray, would be the same for the whole
Okay.
city.
Okay. Then what about Salatul Janaza? It's also, yeah. If some people do, it's okay. Yeah. The other-
سقط عنك.
Huh?
It's like سقط.
Yeah.
تسقط عن الآخر.
Yeah. سقط عن البعض. Yeah. If somebody do it, سقط عن البعض. من صلى قبل وقت الصلاة هل تصح صلاته مع البيان؟ لا. لماذا؟ على المؤمنين كتابا then any other explanation because there is need for more.
Every prayer has its own timing.
Yes, every prayer has its own timing. So من صلى قبل وقت الصلاة هل تصح صلاته مع البيان؟
Because every prayer has a strict entry time and exit time.
And strict entry time and exit time. But are there situations in which a person can pray outside?
Yes, there is. If he's traveling, مسافر, you can pray, yeah, for example.
You can combine the prayer.
يجمع الصلاة.
الجمع بين الصلاتين. There should also be a chapter about الجمع بين الصلاتين. But it's not included here. Yes.
Maybe someone slept and forgot they can wake up and pray.
It's left and forward. So in this case then the excuse could only be after the time, not before the time. Yes, because whenever somebody is allowed to pray, or the only excuse that is allowed for someone to pray outside the time of Salah is if they forget it. You can only forget it if the time has passed, when you forget it. But the only place where you could mistakenly pray before the time is in the place he mentioned, in the Taharur al-Waqt. You are in a place, let's say in a bush, in a jungle. You don't have watch, you don't have anything. You are just guessing, you are just looking at the sun. And assuming somebody has not read any of this fiqh. If you read fiqh, you will know, okay, now I will use myself to measure the time. You just look at your shadow, okay, if it tells, okay, fine, it's time. And then assuming somebody does not know. So now what is left for them is guess. Guess is the hunch. And nobody to ask around. So now they will guess there is a possibility they could pray before the time. but it's what is under al-khata. It's a mistake. That is not what they intend to do. They don't even know they do it, for example. Even they pray, they finish, maybe they will not even realize they did the mistake. So that is considered a mistake. So these are the only conditions that somebody could, and it's considered valid. Why? Because it's a mistake. And we know that al-khata wal ikrah wal nisyan, they are all forgiven by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. اذكر وقت دخول الصلاتين من أوقات الصلاة. اذكر وقت دخول صلاتين من أوقات الصلاة. وقت دخول صلاتين. Let us take Maghrib, because I think it says صلاتين means only two. Yeah. اذكر وقت دخول الصلاتين of the five. The two. If we take Maghrib, what is the time? غروب الشمس. Yeah. إلى اختفاء الشفق. When the shafaq is clear, then. Okay, and then let us take Asr, Zuhra. If we take Zuhra, when the time? What is the time for Zuhra?
when بعد الزوال.
بعد الزوال.
لما تكون السماء في كبد السماء.
Yes. Okay, so when does it end?
Shadow grows as much as you want.
Yeah. When the minus, yes. Yes. Yeah. So when the shadow grows as you are, but minus Fayuzawal. Yeah, perfect. Then what about Maghrib? Okay, we did Maghrib. What about Isha?
من بعد اختفاء الشفق إلى منتصف الليل.
إلى منتصف الليل. Yes.
So we calculate the time from غروب الشمس to فجر الصادق. We cut it in half. That's منتصف الليل.
ما الفرق بين فجر الصادق والكاذب؟
فجر الكاذب is vertical and it's like as a wolf, as you mentioned.
Yes.
فجر الصادق is horizontal and covers all the horizon.
Covers all the horizon. And what follows after each of them?
So first
One
is
is darkness, the other one is light.
Yeah. The one is darkness, the false one, like it's kind of tidy, yes. You are false, then darkness follows, right? And then true one, light follows. So at least it's coincident, it's concise, it's easy to remember. اذكر الصلوات المستثناة من الأوقات التي نهيت الصلاة فيها. الصلوات المستثناة الاستثناء.
ركعتين عند الطواف.
تحية
Yeah.
ركعتين عند الطواف.
تحية المسجد. Yes, in some cases, but some will not agree, as I said, yes. But according to what we have read, yes.
الجنازة.
Yeah,
also قضاء الفوائد.
yes,
بعد الشريك.
yes. قضاء الفوائد.
والجمعة.
واليوم صلاة الجمعة also. But that one is so specific for a specific time, not in all the times. But in the case of others, it's open for all the times. But in the case of Juma, it's only when the sun is at the center, and this is the time you have.
زي سنة الفجر. You don't preach سنة الفجر and preach Jama'ah as prayer for start. After you can.
Yes, after, yes. Also, that's also another section in Salatul Nafila also. There's also discussion about it. But so after, you can do it. But like, don't make it a habit. This is all. Like, it's if you forget, because that is the condition. But if I make it okay, now, okay, every time I come late, and then, okay, this, that, then after I will do that. So it's like you are now shifting that time. So it's when you forget only. So when something happens that you doesn't pray, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Anything right is from Allah, anything wrong is from me. May Allah forgive us.